Hi, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk Chicago. My name's Jon Zaghloul. Great to have you here on Channel 59.3, BPOD TV, and Roku. Big news. Justin Fields may have taken another shot at Matt Nagy. We'll give you the details in just a second. Before we get started, make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Z Sports and on Facebook at Jon Zaghloul. You to watch more of this show, search up Sports Talk Chicago, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and sportstalkchicago.com. You to watch more shows from the VPOD TV network, search up BPOD TV on YouTube. I want to start today with this. Obviously, last year for the Bears was a complete train wreck. Don't need me to tell you that. We've talked about it a number of times on this program. Matt Nagy screwed the team offensively, sabotaged certain players, including Justin Fields. That's why he didn't develop. Ryan Pace cap-strapped the team, and it's forced Brian Poles to clean up after his mistakes. The defense regressed. The offense regressed. Matt Nagy, Brian Pace, both fired, and the team overall went 6-11. It was, without question, a failure. Plain and simple. No other way to put it. Can't sugarcoat it. It was a failure. Everybody failed from top to bottom. It was a culture of losing, of dysfunction, of frustration. And obviously some change needed to be made. Justin Fields recently gave an interview to Fox News. I really want you to hear what he had to say about the differences between this year's coaching staff and last year's. This is very interesting. Quote, of course, there's a new coaching staff. We're kind of just trying to reculture or getting the culture in the building. I don't think our culture was the best culture last year. So working with the new staff, everybody's just buying in. We got a lot of new people in, just creating a foundation for years to come. That's really the most exciting thing about it. It's been awesome working with the new coaches and working with my new teammates, end quote. This shouldn't be a big deal or a huge headline, but there's one line in between that quote that really set off some people. Quote, I don't think our culture was the best culture last year. Hello, Matt Nagy. We meet again. Justin Fields has every right to say this. This isn't even a controversial opinion. It's just the truth. I don't blame Justin Fields for saying this. Look at what happened to his team last year. Look at what happened to him last year, not even the team. I'm still never going to forget about that Cleveland Browns game. Everybody else might. But that to me proves, it should prove to the entire NFL that Matt Nagy has no business even coming near another quarterback. Not even close. How he was trusted with two, not just one, but two top picks is beyond me. How he found another job is even worse. The heir apparent to Andy Reid, my ass. Come on. Of course, there's a new culture this year. Of course, last year's culture wasn't the best. I'd say something way worse. I give Justin Fields credit for trying to mend the situation and being a good PR guy for his team. That's a quality of being a leader, by the way. It was atrocious last year. It was a joke, the situation. You could say Justin Fields didn't perform. Had growing pains, certainly. There are problems he needs to fix, no question about it. But I'll tell you one thing, Matt Nagy certainly didn't do him any favors. Matt Nagy made things harder on him, worse. Put him into a situation he shouldn't have been put into. And once he got in, called plays and instituted a game plan that made no sense. It didn't cater to Justin Fields at all. Of course, there's a new culture, and of course, it's better than what was there last year. Last year was a scam, it was a joke, and it should never be reprised in any sort of fashion. If I were Justin Fields, take as many shots as you can, well, you still have the opportunity to do so. Well, people still like you. If he doesn't perform, of course, tables will be turned, but well, people still like you. Make these claims and say it and broadcast it to everybody so everybody knows it wasn't your fault. And nobody blames Justin Fields for the most part. Some do. That was a Matt Nagy problem through and through. There's no doubt about it. The culture was dysfunctional. Dysfunctional. Not just bad or it wasn't the best culture. It was dysfunctional. That's the definition. It was Cleveland Browns football for Chicago. I've talked about this before. The Bears are founding franchise, storied history, lineage, Hallis family, 1985 Super Bowl win, and yet they're playing Browns frickin' football. Browns football. Not Bears football, Browns football. They love chaos, disorder, destruction, dysfunction. All the D's you can imagine. It plays into the Bears' plan, destroying young quarterbacks. That's the culture that was there last year with Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace and company. Ted Phillips, George McCaskey, they all fall under that umbrella. So, hell yes, the culture was not good last year. And of course it's going to be better now. But still, it doesn't hurt to say it out loud, so everybody can be reminded. So many people have told me, hey, get off of Matt Nagy. He's been dragged through the mud enough. I don't think you understand how serious this is about Matt Nagy, about what he did. Already ruined Mitch Trubisky, ruined Justin Fields. I got a text from a source about Nagy, about his treatment of Mitch Trubisky. It was scary. I was told there are things I can't even say. The source said there are things I can't even say about what Matt Nagy did to Mitch Trubisky. It was that bad, yes. It was. Credit to Mitch for being silent, but how was that allowed? And then he gets another chance and does it to Justin Fields. I want to see what Fields could do now without Nagy around, but no matter what, I don't blame him fully if he never recovers. I'm not saying that'll happen, but there are some quarterbacks who obviously get broken year one and never get back to where they should be. If that happens, I have no blame to place on Fields at all. Not his fault. Broken year one. This is the kind of stuff that just frustrates me. Maybe it's just me. It should be common sense. Treat people well. That's a life lesson, not just a football lesson. Treat people well. If you treat people well, chances are you're going to be treated well back and things will be better in your life. Golden rule, life lesson. That's it. Matt Nagy should have treated Justin Fields better. Should have treated him well. Not even better. Well. He's your top picked quarterback. I could understand a 7th round lineman. You want him to learn the ropes, learn the trenches, be a little hard on him. I get it. I played sports. I know how it works. But he's your top quarterback. And that doesn't mean coddle him or baby him, but it does mean treating him like a man with respect and not throwing him to the wolves for no reason other than potentially your ego. That's it. That's the only reason we saw what happened week 3 with Cleveland. Ego. Massive ego. I don't know Matt Eberflus personally. Tell you this much, does not have the ego Matt Nagy does. You can already see it. You can already see it. He oozes that during press conferences, during workouts, during media scrums. You can already tell. He doesn't have that ego. Maybe it'll develop. Maybe the power goes to his head. He becomes a big head coach and wow, but he doesn't have the ego. Matt Nagy from day one had an ego. Oh, I came from Andy Reid's system. I'm very good. I know an offense. I know how to develop a quarterback. I did it with Pat Mahomes. And he pretty much realized very quickly that's not the case. And it's harder than you think it is. When Father Andy isn't around you anymore, Daddy Andy can't help you out, then yeah. Oh crap, it's on me, and I'm not good enough to coach. So instead I'll blame players, waste resources, and waste quarterbacks to make myself look good. Oh, but Matt Nagy's a great guy. Nice man. Well, you tell me. His treatment of his players is appalling. His players should be his kids. I don't care if it's the National Football League. I don't care if these men are 30 years old. Treat them well. They're your kids. That's not just a youth sports philosophy, certainly in college and some cases in the NFL or MLB or NBA. They're your kids. Got to protect them, got to defend them, got to help them. You're there to help, you're there to develop. That's what the role of a coach is. Develop, get the best, the very best out of everybody you can. There are some managers who do that exceptionally well in baseball. Joe Madden being one. Joe Madden can get something out of the worst player in baseball. He can. And he's done it before. We've seen it on the Cubs, Angels, everywhere. Or he can improve you and get better over time. Look at Shohei Ohtani. Ironic, huh? New manager, Joe Madden, is the manager, and Shohei won MVP last year. Right, because Joe Madden knows how to use that sort of player and gets the best out of him. Matt Nagy should have been more like Joe Madden. He wasn't. He was Matt Nagy. He was an impediment to his players, not a helper. So when Justin Fields comes out and says these comments, when he says the culture wasn't the best last year, translation, I wasn't appreciated. I wasn't taken care of. I wasn't cared for. I wasn't treated like a top 10, top 11 pick. And when you have a culture problem in the NFL and your top quarterback's even admitting it, my goodness, you have a real issue. Your top quarterback, your top picked quarterback is admitting to the press, hey, we had a culture problem last year and I'm happy it's over. Yikes. Not a good look. Not a good look for the organization and for the former coach and former GM. And Matt Nagy will understandably at some point get a second chance, but in my opinion, he should never coach again. He shouldn't even be in the NFL again. He shouldn't even be coaching high school kids, because you know what? If he could, or if he did, they'd be ruined. They'd be ruined if he did that. If he can't develop Justin Fields or Mitch Trubisky, and there are reports that prove that he sabotaged them on purpose, those are real reports from The Athletic, I wouldn't trust him with my peewee football player kid. If I had a kid who was a peewee football player, I wouldn't trust him. It's obvious he's played favorites. He's used his ego to hurt the people around him who actually confide in him for help. And that's what Justin Fields is saying here. He confided in Matt Nagy for help. He really thought, okay, I'm going to be drafted. I'm going to have a coach who not only appreciates me, but could cater to me. Could be helpful for me, like Ryan Day was at Ohio State. Nope, didn't happen. And Fields probably, unfortunately, found that out very quickly. As in Game 1, as in the Cleveland Browns game. Found out right away, this is not what I signed up for. And it was a struggle all year. We saw it on the field. Justin Fields struggled all season. Inexperience played a role, but tell you one thing, his coach didn't do him any favors. All year, it was a struggle. Look at the Bears' offense. It was a struggle all year to even put up points, to even drive downfield, to throw the ball 20 or 30 yards. And Fields has a good arm. All of these things. It was frustrating. It was a struggle. It was tough. Not easy. Just unfortunate. So I don't blame Justin Fields for coming out and saying this. I don't blame Justin Fields for being honest about the situation. I appreciate honesty. You know that. I love honesty. Things need to be better. Things need to be cleaned up. It's unacceptable what happened last year. It's unacceptable that Justin Fields, as a rookie quarterback, had to endure that, too. I know not every situation is going to be perfect. There will be issues in every which place you go. But that was unacceptable. I'd rather Dan Campbell be his head coach last year than Matt Nagy. At least Campbell, for his credit, could get the best out of the players he had. That was not a good team last year in Detroit. We know that. And yet, a lot of guys did okay. Amon-Ra St. Brown as a rookie did great. Jared Goff, actually, even turned it on later in the year. I was pleasantly surprised with some of the output we saw on that team. They fought every game, didn't win a lot, but they fought. And they made it hectic for teams. We can't forget the Bears beat them by a field goal on Thanksgiving. That was one of the worst games of football I've ever seen. Good coach, shows fight, shows character, shows he cares. Matt Nagy does not care. Matt Nagy never showed care for his players, for his coaching staff, personnel, team, franchise. Never. It was all about Matt Nagy. It was all about ego, pride, looking like the man in charge. That trust, that image of himself eroded pretty quickly throughout last season. And it turned into a situation where nobody honored the man in charge, the image of Matt Nagy. Nobody cared. That's why he got fired. He lost his team. So I don't blame Justin Fields for feeling this way. I don't blame Justin Fields for publicly acknowledging it. I would have said even worse than what he said. And I'm appreciative of the fact that he's being honest with everybody. He's not hiding anything about last year. He knows what happened. Everybody knows what happened. And that's great that he's being honest and doing it with a PR spin. Shows again his leadership capabilities. At the same time, though, my hope is that now with a new coaching staff, new GM, some new players as they trickle in via free agency and the draft, that things could get better for him and his career. That way he won't turn out like a bust. But that's just me. Thanks for watching today's show here on BPOD TV, channel 59.3 in Roku. Really appreciate the time. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Z Sports and on Facebook at Jon Zaghloul. You know, watch more of this show. Search up Sports Talk Chicago, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and sportstalkchicago.com. You can tune in right here every night at 10:30 on BPOD TV. So long, everyone.